Renting an apartment with a 750 credit score versus renting with a 600 credit score. All your friends tell you that your credit score is just a number you need when you want to buy a house, get a mortgage, or sign up for a premium credit card that awards you points for travel. Your parents say it, your coworkers say it, the financial media say it, but the real math is a lot more complicated, and that complication is the whole point of this video. The tenant screening process is a silent, automated machine working in the background of every rental application in the country, and if your credit score is 600 instead of 750, that machine is tuned to take thousands of dollars from your pocket before you ever get the keys to your front door. The credit check is not an impartial safety check. It is a financial filter separating renters who pay the standard price from those who pay a steep, non-refundable premium for the same exact apartment. To get a handle on this dynamic, we need to go back to the beginning and see how tenant screening reports became the default gateway to housing. In the late 20th century, personal references, bank statements, and letters of employment were used by landlords. It was a manual process, human-centered, where an applicant could talk through a short period of hardship, like a medical problem or a short-term layoff. But as real estate ownership became consolidated in corporate property management groups and institutional landlords, the leasing process was handed off to automated software. When you apply today through a portal such as AppFolio, RealPage, or Buildium, your credit file is run through third-party data brokers in real time. These systems see a risk score, not a human being with a story. Screening brokers buy public court records, eviction filings, and credit bureau data, bundle them into automated risk reports, and sell them to property managers. Let me show you what the numbers actually say when you account for the variables that nobody in the transaction has any incentive to mention, because the answer to this question determines more about your financial trajectory than almost any other single decision you'll make as a renter. I ran this comparison with real 2026 numbers, current rental market rates, current guarantor fees, and current tenant screening practices for 3 weeks. Here is the spreadsheet I wish someone showed me before I applied for my first rental. The inputs we are going to use are public, and the outputs are what landlords, data brokers, and credit repair companies hope you never calculate. We will consider 2 identical tenants, Marcus and David. They both have the exact same engineering job, they both make a gross salary of $6,000 a month, and they both want to rent the exact same $2,000 a month apartment in Austin, Texas. They both satisfy the landlord's gross income rule of having a monthly income 3 times the rent. But Marcus has a credit score of 750. David's credit score is 600. What I am about to go through is not my opinion. It's just math. The math doesn't give a shit. It doesn't matter which one has felt better or which one your dad recommends. It cares about input and output. The inputs are out there for anyone to see. The outputs are what no one shows you. The premise of this showdown is simple. Qualifying for a lease is not the same as affording a lease, and a low credit score turns a simple transaction into a cash extraction trap. The $5.8 billion tenant screening industry doesn't make money by helping you build credit. They make money by automating your rejection and selling a risk report to the landlord. And the companies that step in to address your rejection are designed to capitalize on your desperation. Let's analyze the real cost of renting for Marcus, who is option A with his 750 credit score. Marcus submits his application and pays a $50 application fee. The automated screening portal instantly approved his application because his credit score is in the preferred tier. The landlord requires a standard security deposit of $2,000, which is 1 month's rent. Marcus signs the lease, pays the $50 application fee and the $2,000 security deposit, and moves into the apartment. His total cash requirement up front is $2,050. At the end of his lease, when he moves out, he gets his $2,000 security deposit back in full, as long as he doesn't damage the apartment. The only permanent and non-refundable cost Marcus paid to secure his home was the $50 application fee. In some states, landlords are required to pay interest on security deposits, so Marcus's money may grow a little bit while it is in escrow, but in most cases, the interest will be minimal. The key thing is that Marcus's capital is intact. Now let's examine the actual cost of renting for David, who is an example of option B with his 600 credit score. David also applies for the same apartment and pays the same $50 application fee. The automated screening system flags his 600 score as high risk because of a late payment on a credit card in the past and a utility collection 3 years ago. Landlord refuses normal approval. Instead, the property manager gives a conditional approval under 2 strict conditions. First, David must pay a double security deposit equal to 2 months' rent. That is $4,000. Second, his credit score is below the landlord's minimum baseline of 650, so he needs to obtain a corporate guarantor to co-sign the lease. Having no relative who makes 80 times the monthly rent to serve as a personal guarantor, David will have to use a corporate guarantor service such as Insurant, Leap, or the Guarantors. These companies require a one-time, non-refundable upfront fee to co-sign a lease for a high-risk tenant. An applicant with a 600 credit score generally pays 100% of 1 month's rent. On this $2,000 apartment, that guarantor fee is a straight $2,000, paid up front and gone forever. This charge doesn't include rent. It is an insurance premium that is in place to protect the landlord, not David. If David defaults, the guarantor company pays the landlord and then sues David for the balance. The underwriting is heavy for these services. David has to provide his pay stubs, bank statements, and tax returns, and prove his employment. The premium is calculated by the guarantor company based on its own risk pricing models. If David's score was 580, the premium could be 120% of a month's rent, or $2,400. David scores 600. He pays exactly $2,000. David has also spent $99 a month for the last 6 months on a commercial credit repair service in the hope of fixing his score, adding $594 in sunk costs to his financial ledger. Let's look a little closer at the double security deposit. No statutory limits on residential security deposits in states such as Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Landlords are free to ask for 3 or even 4 months' rent if they think the applicant is risky. In other states, however, tenant advocacy has led to strict legislative caps. For example, in California, Assembly Bill 12 that became effective July 1, 2024, prohibits landlords from charging more than 1 month's rent for a security deposit, whether the apartment is unfurnished or furnished. There is a small exception for small landlords with 2 or fewer rental properties for a total of no more than 4 units, and they can charge up to 2 months' rent. Similarly, New York's Housing Stability and Tenant Protection Act of 2019 limited all residential deposits to 1 month's rent. The cap states don't allow landlords to demand double deposits, so David's upfront cash requirement would be lower. However, the landlord is much more likely to simply refuse him outright if he can't find a corporate guarantor, which keeps the fee extraction mechanism intact. Let's do the math for David. He also must pay $594 credit repair subscription, $50 application fee, $2,000 non-refundable corporate guarantor fee, and $4,000 double security deposit up front. David's total cash to move into the same apartment as Marcus is $6,644. That compares with the $2,050 that Marcus got in cash up front. The bad credit tax has forced David to come up with an extra $4,594 in cash just to sign the lease. More importantly, $2,594 of David's cash is made up of non-refundable sunk costs, the guarantor fee, and the credit repair subscription, that are gone forever. Let's project this comparison on a yearly basis to see the real opportunity cost of this credit gap. The old comparison stops on move-in day, but the real math starts when Marcus takes that $4,594 difference and chooses to put it to work. On day 1 of the lease, Marcus invests the $2,594 worth of saved sunk costs. He invests it in a cheap S&P 500 index fund such as FXAIX, which has historically earned about 10% nominally and 7% inflation adjusted per year since the 1920s. In year 1, Marcus's investment is already working away in the background while he pays his normal rent. David sits in the same apartment, but his savings account is empty, having been drained to pay the guarantor fee and double security deposit. If both stay in their apartments, in year 5, Marcus's original investment of $2,594 has grown to $3,638. Since the guarantor fee was spent 5 years ago, David has had no return on it, and his double deposit is still sitting in the landlord's escrow account, earning 0% interest. By year 10, it's a chasm. Marcus has invested the saved sunk costs in inflation-adjusted terms to $5,102. But let's look at the reality of behavior when renting. The average renter moves every 3 years. If David moves 3 times in 10 years and his credit score stays at 600, he will pay a new corporate guarantor fee of $2,000 at every new building. David pays $6,000 in guarantor fees over 10 years, and they're non-refundable. By year 10, Marcus has more than $15,000 in his brokerage account if he invests the difference. David has paid $6,000 in fees, has had thousands of dollars in extra deposits locked up at all times, and has $0 in investments. By year 20, the numbers have taken over by the exponential curve of compound interest. So from that one lease signing, Marcus's initial investment has turned into $10,040. Including David's repeat fees as a guarantor every time he moved, the total lost wealth for David is greater than $35,000. By the age of 30, Marcus's single quiet difference has grown to $19,746. Factor in David's bad credit and the full stack of recurring fees and deposit drag, and he costs himself over $60,000 in lifetime wealth he never built over a 30-year career. David didn't buy a nicer apartment or a nicer car or live a nicer life. He just paid the system a tax of $60,000 for having a credit score of 600 instead of 750. The hidden variables in this showdown are the structural errors that characterize the credit reporting system. Most people believe their low credit score is due to their own financial mistakes, but the data tells a different story. Based on a landmark congressional study by the Federal Trade Commission, 1 in 5 Americans has a confirmed mistake on at least one of their 3 major credit reports. That means 20% of the population is wandering around with the wrong data attached to their names. More importantly, 5% of those consumers had errors so bad that it brought them down to a lower credit tier, resulting in higher interest rates, credit denials, or rental rejections. This is evident in the consumer complaint data from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The Bureau received more than 3 million consumer complaints in its 2024 annual report, 85% of which were credit reporting related. In the 2025 report, complaints nearly doubled to over 6 million. With credit reporting accounting for nearly 5.8 million submissions, or roughly 90% of all complaints. This massive surge is driven by the automated nature of credit disputes, where credit repair companies use automated tools to spam the bureaus. But it also speaks to a deeper truth. The credit reporting databases are full of garbage data. The 3 credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, are private, for-profit corporations. Their customers are banks, lenders, and landlords who buy their data. You are not the customer. You are the product. No financial incentive to have your credit report flawless. They have a financial incentive to gather as much data as possible, and then sell that data to the highest bidder. Who benefits from this confusion? Tenant screening companies make money selling automated background checks to property managers. The global tenant screening market was valued at $5.8 billion in 2025 and is expected to reach $6 billion by 2032. Automated algorithms from such giants as TransUnion SmartMove, Experian Connect, and CoreLogic bundle together eviction records, public databases, and credit scores. These systems frequently produce blended files that mix your name with eviction filings for another person with a similar name. Or they include eviction cases that were dismissed or sealed. Property managers use these automated systems so you get rejected without anyone ever looking at your file. The Fair Credit Reporting Act requires landlords to send you an adverse action notice if they reject your application or require a double deposit based on your credit file, but in practice, property managers rarely send this notice, leaving renters in the dark about why they were rejected. The credit repair companies are also making money off of your desperation. They charge $99 to $149 per month and will dispute negative items on your behalf. They are sending templated dispute letters to the bureaus through automated software. And that's what's driving the enormous spike in consumer complaints to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. But the secret the credit repair industry keeps is that they can't do anything you can't do yourself for free. Under the Credit Repair Organizations Act, they cannot charge you upfront fees before they perform services. And they cannot legally remove accurate negative history from your report. The complexity they peddle is a marketing wrapper. They need to be able to get a monthly subscription from your anxiety. So how do you get out of the bad credit tax? The escape route, it's not a secret loop, nor a paid service. It's a simple, straightforward process that you can do yourself and it costs nothing. Federal law requires credit bureaus to investigate any dispute you submit within 30 days. If they can't verify the negative item in that time frame, they have to remove it from your report. The exit starts with a data reclamation. The first thing you want to do is get your free credit reports from the 3 bureaus at link. Don't pay for a credit monitoring service. You have the right to get these reports free under the law. Read them, line for line. Look for incorrect balances, accounts you don't recognize, accounts that are closed but still showing as open, and negative items older than 7 years. Bankruptcies have to be removed after 10 years. If you see an error, dispute it directly with the credit bureau, online or by mail. Do not use a template from a credit repair company. Dear name, I wanted to let you know that the item you posted is wrong. Please take it down. Thanks, your name. Please send us copies of any documents to support this. The Bureau has 30 days to investigate and respond. If they don't, you can file a complaint directly with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which forces a response from the bureaus within 15 days. If your credit score is down because of negative history on the books, exit is good, consistent behavior over time. You can also get a secured credit card from a bank like Discover or Capital One. A secured card requires a small cash deposit, usually $200, which serves as your credit limit. Use the card for small repeat purchases like a streaming subscription and set the card to auto-pay full balance each month. This creates a consistent history of on-time payments, the biggest factor in your credit score, which makes up 35% of the calculation. The second largest factor is your credit utilization percentage, which is the percent of available credit that you're using. Maintain this under 10%. So a secured card with a $200 limit, that means not letting the balance go over $20 when the statement closes. History can also be built with rent reporting services. There are programs like RentTrack, Isusu, or other credit-building platforms that will pay a small monthly fee to report your timely rent payments directly to the credit bureaus. This allows you to build a positive payment history on the rent you're already paying. If you have collections on your report, call the collection agency and negotiate a pay-for-delete agreement. In this agreement, you agree to pay a portion of the debt in exchange for the collector removing the negative collection account from your credit report completely. Get this agreement in writing before you send any money. One deleted collection account can add 50 to 100 points to your score in one billing cycle. Let's look at why credit repair subscription plans are a mechanical extraction model. If you pay a company $99 a month, they have an incentive to keep you paying that fee for as long as possible. If they fix your report in a month, they make $99. If they drag it out over 12 months, they get $1,188. They do this by disputing 1 or 2 items a month, saying disputing more at once looks suspicious to the bureaus. This is a manipulation of behavior. Credit bureaus don't care how many disputes you send in, as long as they are legitimate. Also, when you dispute through a credit repair company, they use their own address or online portals that strip away your rights. Many online dispute portals have terms of service that require mandatory arbitration, which means you can't sue the bureaus under the Fair Credit Reporting Act if they don't fix damaging errors. If you write a physical letter and mail it yourself, you retain all of your legal rights to hold the bureaus accountable. Now let's examine the underwriting reality of corporate guarantors. When you hand over $2,000 to insurant or the guarantors, you might feel some relief because you got approved for the lease. But understand that these companies aren't your friends. These are data-driven insurance engines that price risk to the penny. They use the $2,000 fee to pool risk across thousands of tenants, so it's non-refundable. If you don't pay your rent, the guarantor pays the landlord, but they become the landlord immediately. They will use aggressive debt collection agencies, report the default to your credit report, and will take legal action to garnish your wages. The guarantor company doesn't protect you from eviction. They protect the landlord's cash flow. You are paying a premium for a service that protects the property owner while leaving you on the hook for the whole liability. It's a one-sided contract. You pay a huge fee and get no equity, no protection, and no long-term asset. Let's do some quick math on what that $2,000 guarantor fee could have done if it was in your pocket. If you have a 750 credit score, you keep that $2,000. If you put that $2,000 in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund and let it compound at a 7% inflation-adjusted annual return, after 10 years that $2,000 is worth $3,934, is worth $7,738 in 20 years. It's worth $15,220 after 30 years. Now add the credit repair fee of $594. Invested that too, the $2,594 will be $19,746 in 30 years. One lease signing in your 20s, and that's almost $20,000 of retirement wealth blown away. If you move several times and pay this tax again and again, the lifetime impact is staggering. The security deposit drag is the second half of the bad credit tax. If instead David puts in $4,000 instead of $2,000, he is tying up an additional $2,000 of liquidity. He gets the money back when the lease is up, but he has missed out on investing that $2,000 during the lease. If David rents for 10 years and has to keep an extra $2,000 locked up in landlord's accounts in 3 different apartments, he loses 10 years' worth of compounding returns on that money. At 7%, $2,000 could have become another $2,000. That's the invisible drag that renters never think about, the opportunity cost of cash sitting in interest-free accounts. In addition to that, tenant screening companies buy records from municipal court databases using automated scraper bots. These bots crawl civil court dockets, writing down names of tenants associated with eviction filings. But the data harvesting process has a big problem. In the event a landlord files an eviction lawsuit but the case is dismissed because the tenant paid the rent, or the landlord was in error, the dismissal is rarely reported to the screening agency. The automated scraper copies the initial filing, but never updates the record to show the dismissal. This means an eviction filing dismissed by a judge 10 years ago can still appear as an active eviction on your tenant screening report, and you'll be automatically denied. It's up to you to dispute the old record and prove the case was dismissed, a process that can take weeks of tracking down court certificates and sending them to data brokers who have no incentive to move quickly. Section 609 of the Fair Credit Reporting Act gives you the right to get a complete disclosure of the information in your consumer file from any credit reporting agency or screening bureau. This includes where the information came from and who each person was that asked for your report in the past year. If a landlord denies your application based on a screening report, you can ask for a free copy of that report within 60 days. You can use your Section 609 rights to audit the precise data the screening companies are using to judge you. You'll see the specific eviction records, collection reports, and background checks that are holding up your approval so you can dispute them with specific documentation instead of guessing what went wrong. Next, set aside an hour sometime this week and do a personal credit audit. Collect your files, sign into your accounts, and check the numbers. If you have collections, reach out to the collectors and arrange a pay-for-delete agreement, in which they agree to remove the negative collection mark from your report for payment. If you have errors, send the disputes this afternoon. No need to wait for the weekend. Your delay is costing you money, right now. It's not about prestige when it comes to having a credit score of 750 versus 600. It's a money issue. That's $4,000 of upfront capital you could have compounding in your index fund, rather than sitting in a landlord's bank account. In summary, let's examine the mathematical duel between Marcus and David over a 10-year rental horizon. Both are the same. Both rent the same, but the system treats them differently. Marcus pays $50 in application fees and ties up $2,000 in a refundable deposit. David pays application fees of $50. He locks up $4,000 in a double deposit. He pays non-refundable guarantor fees of $2,000. And he pays for credit repair of $594. If David moves 3 times and pays new guarantor fees each time, in 10 years David spends $6,000 in guarantor fees, $594 in credit repair, and keeps an extra $2,000 locked up. Marcus has his savings in FXAIX. Marcus built an investment account worth $15,600 in 10 years. David has $0 invested and $6,594 in non-refundable costs. The gap is $22,194. That's the true cost of bad credit. The tenant screening system was not designed for you to win. It was intended to reduce risk for landlords and charge fees to applicants. But now the board looks straight to you. You know how the screening systems work, who profits from the rejections, and how the guarantor fees and double deposits eat away at your long-term wealth. The exit is simple. It's free. It's available to you today. The ball is in your court. Set up your accounts, challenge the errors, automate your payments, and let the compound math start working for you and not the system.